CBS Young and the Restless spoilers Tuesday, full the 9th of September, 2025. The fragile balance in Genoa City begins to tremble when multiple storylines intersect, and each player, knowingly or not, begins moving toward a collision that will shake the foundation of their ambitions. At the center is Audra Charles, whose veneer of confidence starts to crack under the pressure of Holden Novak's return, Claire Newman's relentless suspicion, and the looming debut of her joint project with Sally Spectra. Audra has worked too hard to let her past dictate her present, but fear is a dangerous force, and in her attempt to hide the truth, she risks unraveling the very image she has carefully built. Sally, unaware of the full scope of Audra's past with Holden, focuses instead on the practical and emotional work of preparing for the launch party that she believes will be the defining moment of their careers. Sally's optimism, paired with her fierce determination to prove herself, makes her a natural motivator, but Audra's doubts overshadow the partnership. While Sally frames the evening as an opportunity to elevate them both into a new echelon of success, Audra only sees the faces of potential detractors waiting to pounce on her failures. She cannot silence the echo of whispers, the gnawing feeling that her enemy chief among them, Claire, will use the night to humiliate her. Sally, seasoned in surviving criticism, insists that living well is the sharpest form of revenge, reminding Audra that confidence disarms enemies faster than retaliation. But Sally's pep talk falls flat when she realizes Audra is more consumed with who might attend than with the opportunity at hand. Audra's anxiety spikes when she learns that Kyle Abbott and Claire Newman plan to attend. Her rivalry with Claire has been simmering for weeks, and the thought of being scrutinized by her rival at what should be her crowning moment fills her with dread. Sally, exasperated but pragmatic, urges Audra to put aside personal vendettas for one night. A public feud would not only damage their professional reputations, but would also hand their detractors exactly the spectacle they crave. Sally insists that revenge will come through success, not confrontation, and with that advice, she leaves to handle final preparations, unaware of the storm brewing in her partner's personal life. It is in this vulnerable moment that Holden appears, his presence an unsettling reminder of everything Audra is trying to suppress. He urges her to leave Claire alone, his voice carrying the weight of someone who knows that pushing too far will only invite disaster. Audra, stung by the intrusion, responds with venom, reminding him that Claire is not just some passing nuisance, but someone now entangled with the Abbotts, a family whose wealth and influence stretch far beyond the boardrooms of Genoa City. Her words carry both contempt and warning, a reminder to Holden that attacking Claire indirectly threatens Kyle Abbott, and by extension, a dynasty. Holden, undeterred, insists that Claire and Kyle are nothing more than friends, dismissing the budding closeness as irrelevant. What matters, he argues, is that Claire is the kind of woman who will never stop digging. He warns Audra that Claire's curiosity about Los Angeles is not idle gossip, but a real threat, because once Claire starts pulling at threads, the entire tapestry of their shared past could unravel. The exchange brims with unspoken menace. Audra taunts Holden with the possibility of what Claire might think if she learned the truth about him, about them, about the choices they made in the shadows of Los Angeles. Holden, for all his bravado, does not like the thought of his sins paraded before someone as judgmental as Claire. Yet his obsession with Audra keeps him tethered to her, unwilling to sever the toxic bond that holds them together. Their dialogue is not just about Claire, it is about control, about the way each of them holds the power to destroy the other, and the uneasy truce that results from that knowledge. Meanwhile, other players in Genoa City unknowingly push the drama closer to its boiling point. Sally, still hopeful for the evening's success, confides in Billy Abbott, whose advice carries more weight than she expects. Billy, having weathered his share of failed ventures and complicated relationships, knows better than most the fine line between ambition and self-sabotage. He cautions Sally to focus on the opportunity at hand rather than the distractions, reminding her that the business world thrives on spectacle but judges on results. His words ground her, offering clarity amidst the chaos, and though Sally does not realize it, his perspective may prove invaluable in navigating the fallout of whatever storm Audra drags into the evening. Elsewhere, Victoria Newman turns her attention to Kyle Abbott, offering him the guidance that only someone with her experience can provide. Kyle, caught between personal entanglements and professional responsibilities, finds in Victoria a mentor who speaks the hard truths he sometimes resists. She warns him that every choice, professional or romantic, will be scrutinized, and that aligning himself with the wrong people could cost him far more than he anticipates. Victoria's mentorship is laced with both pragmatism and subtle manipulation, a reminder that in the Newman world, even advice comes with strategy. Her influence, whether Kyle realizes it or not, will shape the way he responds to both Claire's growing presence in his life and Audra's hostility. Amid these threads lies a mystery object, the brooch that once belonged to Catherine Chancellor. Its sudden reappearance stirs questions and speculation, a relic of Genoa City's past that carries symbolic weight. For some, it is a reminder of legacy and loyalty. For others, it is a potential bargaining chip. In a city where power often shifts with the discovery of a single secret, the brooch becomes another element of uncertainty, its significance yet to be fully revealed, but impossible to dismiss. As the evening approaches, all roads point toward confrontation. Audra's fear of humiliation, Holden's refusal to let go, Claire's determination to expose the truth, Sally's desperate hope for professionalism, Billy's pragmatic counsel, and Victoria's strategic mentoring of Kyle. Each of these threads weaves together into a tapestry of tension. Audra's public mask of poise is stretched thin, and those who know her best can see the cracks. If Holden chooses to press her further, if Claire decides to reveal what she suspects, if Sally's insistence on unity collapses under the weight of private feuds, then the night intended to celebrate success could instead become a battlefield of secrets, accusations, and the first public unraveling of Audra Charles. In Genoa City, every glance hides an agenda, every conversation carries double meanings, and every reunion is a prelude to betrayal. The clash between Holden and Audra is only beginning, but its ripple effects threaten to drag everyone Essley, Billy, Victoria, Kyle, Clarinto the undertow. And as the brooch of Catherine Chancellor gleams in the shadows, a silent witness to yet another chapter of scandal, the question becomes not whether secrets will come out, but who will survive their exposure. Holden Novak's words cut through the air like a blade, his voice cold and deliberate as he leveled the truth at Audra Charles. "This will ruin you," he warned, his tone carrying the weight of every secret they had once shared in Los Angeles. His eyes held a cruel satisfaction, not because he wanted her to fall, but because he wanted her to remember that she owed every shred of her fragile empire to him. "Me, I was just the cleaner, the mestet stain that will never wash away if it was all you." His words dripped with venom, yet carried an underlying desperation, as if he needed her to acknowledge the price he had paid. He told her to leave Claire and Kyle alone, to stop baiting them, because his patience was finite and the consequences of her arrogance could expose everything. But Audra, though rattled, refused to concede. Her defiance came not from confidence, but from fear. She knew Holden was right. She knew Los Angeles was the rot at her core. But she could not let him see her flinch. The real question, the one she avoided even in her own min, was what exactly she had done in Los Angeles that gave Holden so much power. Was it fraud? Was it betrayal? Or was it something far darker, the kind of act that could never be confessed without obliterating her future? While Audra's world teetered on the edge of implosion, Sally Spectre carried a very different kind of anxiety back to Billy Abbott's home. Despite her fiery exterior and her determination to focus on the upcoming launch, she couldn't shake her unease about Audra's volatility. She confessed to Billy that she feared Audra might lose her composure in public, perhaps throwing a drink, flipping a chair, or otherwise creating a scene that would taint everything they had worked toward. Can't she keep herself together for just one night? She asked, half exasperated, half resigned to the chaos she knew Audra could unleash. Billy, listening with a mix of sympathy and bemusement, sought to calm her nerves. He reminded Sally that she was stronger than any outburst Audra could stage. But more importantly, he offered her something symbolic, a brooch, delicate yet striking, that once belonged to Catherine Chancellor. He explained that it had been passed down, even given to Delia once, and though it was borrowed, its history carried meaning. In Billy's eyes, it was a reminder of resilience, of survival through loss, and of the weight of legacy. For Sally, holding the brooch became a moment of grounding, proof that her journey was tied, not just to fleeting ambition, but to the deeper currents of Genoa City history. Meanwhile, Crimson Lights became the setting for another confrontation, this time between Kyle Abbott and Victoria Newman. Their conversation, though civil on the surface, was layered with tension. Victoria revealed that Claire had shared parts of her perspective, leaving Kyle unsettled. He asked if Victoria had made any decisions, hoping for reassurance, but Victoria's answer was firm. No decision of this magnitude could be made overnight, nor could it simply resolve itself with time. She pressed Kyle with a question that pierced to his core. Tell me why you think it's normal to hide something like this from the woman you love. Her words forced Kyle to confront the hollowness of his excuses. Victoria, however, tempered her judgment with a sliver of hope, adding that Claire still loved him, but she needed space. The implication was clear: Kyle's choices had damaged the trust between them, and repairing it would require patience, honesty, and humility, qualities he was only beginning to realize he lacked. At Newman Enterprises, Claire Newman charted her own path, seeking balance in a world that seemed determined to test her resilience. She entered Victor Newman's office with gratitude for the new position at Newman Publishing, acknowledging that she wanted more than power or validation. She spoke with striking sincerity about striving to be kind, to live with compassion, rather than simply reacting to the harm others had caused her or the wounds inflicted unintentionally. For Victor, who had spent a lifetime in battles, both corporate and personal, Claire's words were unexpected, perhaps even disarming. Yet his instinct was to challenge, to test the strength of her convictions. He asked her directly if she had forgiven Kyle too quickly, knowing that forgiveness can be both a gift and a weakness. Claire's response revealed the truth she had kept close to her chest. She admitted that Kyle had kissed Audra, and worse, he had concealed it from her for far too long. That omission had left her questioning what else he might be hiding, whether his promises of love were as complete as he claimed. And then came the revelation that despite the betrayal, Kyle had proposed. For Claire, it was not a gesture of romance, but a troubling contradiction. How could a man ask her to commit her life to him while still cloaking himself in half-truths? This admission deepened the stakes. Victor, always protective of his family, but pragmatic about human flaws, recognized both the danger and the potential. Claire's honesty about her doubts demonstrated growth, a refusal to be blinded by passion, and yet the lingering love she confessed for Kyle left her vulnerable. He warned her that forgiveness is a choice with consequences, and that her future with Kyle would depend not only on her willingness to heal, but on his ability to confront his flaws. Claire nodded, but inside, her heart remained torn, caught between love and mistrust, between the desire to build a future and the fear of repeating past mistakes. As these threads unfolded across the city, the shadow of Catherine Chancellor's brooch, Holden's warnings, and the fractures in relationships painted a vivid picture of what lay ahead. Audra wrestled with the ghosts of Los Angeles, knowing Holden's words were more than threats. They were reminders of a truth too dangerous to surface. Sally clung to Billy's advice and the symbolism of Catherine's heirloom, hoping it would steady her through the turbulence. Kyle struggled with guilt and denial, facing the reality that hiding from Claire had done more damage than he could easily repair. Victoria positioned herself as both guide and judge, her influence pressing Kyle toward accountability. Claire balanced gratitude and doubt, charting a new identity under Victor's watchful eye while questioning whether love could survive betrayal. And Victor himself, ever the patriarch, stood ready to shape outcomes with the mix of ruthlessness and wisdom that only he could deliver. In Genoa City, nothing happens in isolation. Each conversation, each gift, each revelation is part of a larger symphony of intrigue. Holden's chilling declaration that Audra's stain would never fade is not just about their past, but a foreshadowing of her unraveling. The brooch of Catherine Chancellor is not just jewelry, but a reminder of history's weight, legacy's reach, and the way the past always seeps into the present. And Claire's confession to Victor is not merely about Kyle's betrayal, but about the fragile line between forgiveness and folly. The night of the launch party looms, promising more than champagne, and a Colodescent promises exposure, confrontation, and the kind of fallout that could reset alliances across Genoa City. What no one yet realizes is that the ghosts of Los Angeles are not finished with Audra and Holden, and the secrets of the past have a way of erupting precisely when the world is watching. Claire Newman walked out of Victor's office with her head spinning, every word he had spoken replaying in her mind like an accusation. How am I supposed to accept this? Is this just smoke and mirrors? She had asked, her voice betraying a blend of anger and despair. For the first time since she had begun carving out her new life, she felt manipulated not only by Kyle, but by her own grandfather, who seemed to be steering her emotions like a chess piece in one of his endless games. She admitted she was angry, furious even, but beneath that rage was the nagging whisper of uncertainty. What if Kyle had been right all along? What if his actions, however flawed and secretive, had been born of genuine love? But Victor's refusal to provide clarity only deepened her frustration. He assured her that Kyle had passed some invisible test, that he loved her, that he had shown strength by pressuring Audra and proving himself willing to strike a bargain with Newman Power. Victor even confessed admiration, claiming that Kyle's willingness to deal impressed him and earned his trust. But Claire had been left cold by the revelation, her sense of betrayal sharpened by the knowledge that another deal had been struck behind her back. She pressed for details, her eyes flashing with determination. "What deal? What agreement are you talking about?" she demanded. But Victor's answer was maddeningly vague. "All you need to know," he said, his voice calm and authoritative, "is that Kyle loves you. That's all that matters." To Victor, love was enough to justify manipulation, enough to excuse hidden arrangements, enough to demand patience. But to Claire, it was a distortion of trust, a dangerous precedent where the people closest to her seemed to decide what she needed to know rather than allowing her the dignity of choice. She rose to her feet, her voice steady though her heart ached. "Nothing about this is right," she declared. "Not the proposal, not the secrets, not your deal. None of it." Without waiting for a reply, she left, determined to reclaim at least a measure of her autonomy. Later that evening, Claire found herself at Crimson Lights, seeking solace in the familiar hum of conversation and the comfort of routine. But her attempt at peace was short-lived. Victoria Newman, ever perceptive, noticed her arrival and approached with the air of someone who knew more than she revealed. Victoria mentioned casually that she had run into Kyle earlier, a fact Claire had no reason to doubt, and the conversation turned quickly to the inevitable: Claire's need to speak with Kyle herself. The timing could not have been more cruel, for within moments Kyle appeared, carrying with him the weight of guilt, love, and the desperation of a man who knew he was losing the woman he wanted most. He apologized quickly, his words tumbling out, explaining that he had never intended to pressure her, that his proposal and his persistence had come from love, not coercion. But Claire, her patience thinned by Victor's cryptic endorsement and Kyle's evasions, was in no mood to be placated. She told him plainly that he was still walking his own path without her, that every time she reached a place where she could trust him, she discovered another secret buried beneath his words. "When does it end?" she asked, her voice a mixture of pain and resolve. Kyle, cornered, tried to defend himself, asking what exactly she thought he was hiding. It was a desperate question, a plea for clarity, but one that revealed just how out of touch he was with the damage his secrecy had inflicted. Claire seized the opening, her voice trembling, but sharp. "Does your deal with my grandfather sound familiar?" she retorted, watching his expression falter. "You keep so many secrets. You don't even know which one I'm talking about anymore." The truth in her words cut him deeper than any accusation. The conversation grew heavier, the air thick with mistrust. Claire's final question hung between them, echoing louder than any answer Kyle could muster. "Are you protecting me? Or are you protecting yourself?" It was the question that defined their fractured bond, the line between love and manipulation. Kyle, struggling to find words, realized that nothing he said could repair the damage in that moment. His silence was damning, his hesitation confirming every doubt Claire had tried to suppress. She looked at him not as a lover, but as a man she could no longer recognize, someone so entangled in deals, bargains, and secrets that his promises of love sounded hollow. For Kyle, the confrontation was devastating. He had believed that proposing, that demonstrating his willingness to fight Audra, even to align with Victor if necessary, would prove his devotion. But instead, each choice only pushed Claire further away, feeding her suspicion that he was acting not out of transparency, but out of self-preservation. His love, meant to be his strongest weapon, had become a liability, because in Genoa City, love without trust is nothing but another battlefield. For Claire, the night crystallized her fears. Victor's manipulation, Kyle's secrecy, Audra's shadow each one was a reminder that she was fighting for independence, for truth, for something greater than half-promises and hidden deals. As she walked away from him, leaving Kyle in the dim light of crimson lights, she carried with her not just anger, but resolve. If she was to build a future, it would not be one defined by manipulation and secrets. And yet, in her heart, she still loved him, which only made the decision more excruciating. For Kyle, left behind with the weight of his mistakes, the question was no longer whether Claire loved him, it was whether he could ever untangle himself from the web of secrets before he lost her forever. And above them all, Victor watched from a distance, his chess game continuing. Satisfied that Kyle had shown strength, but oblivious or perhaps indifferent to the emotional wreckage his tactics had left behind. In Victor's world, strategy was survival, but for Claire and Kyle, survival might not be enough to save their love.